Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Walls of Wellness. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you are returning, thank you for coming back. If you have not hit that subscribe button, please do so. It does not cost you anything. I know sometimes now with there being subscriptions versus subscribe, that subscribe button, all you got to do is click it, hit that notification bell so you know when I go live. Anybody that knows me knows that I pop up at any moment in time. And whenever I pop up, trust and believe you're going to get some nuggets, you're going to get some information. So I always tell people, please make sure you have something to capture notes, whether it is a notepad, whether it's an open tab, anything. We want to make sure that you are gathering what you need for yourself as well as to share for others. Everything that I do is to be inspirational, motivational, encouraging, and provide you with the necessary empowerment. Now, with all that being said, this is why we got this powerhouse right here joining us again. Friend to all of the shows that I do. The D Law code herself to help you break through any emotional immaturity that you may be trying to hold on to. We have author and speaker and empowerment powerhouse Danielle Lawrence. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We here back on it again. I said, Dr. Walls, let's go. Let's go. Yes. As Dr. Walls said, yes, I'm Danielle, also D Law.
Mm-hmm.
I am also an emotional management life coach.
Yes.
That is the thing that I'm doing. And what goes with that is I deal with people who deal with emotional difficulty.
Come
This
on.
is something that we all deal with. And how I go about that is I bring insight through people's own self-awareness. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
from their own self-awareness by guiding their emotions
Mm-hmm.
through self-reflective strategies. So through thought-provoking education, resources, things of that nature, to help them like digest words differently. A lot of times when we have that emotional blockage,
Yes.
we digest words a little bit offensively, where we need to bring a little bit more clarity to it,
Come
so
on.
the perspective can change.
Yes,
Mm.
yes, fantastic. All right, greetings, everyone. Please feel free to use the chat. I will get to as many of them as possible. Our goal here tonight is to help you release. All
Yes,
right. And so when D-Law said, well, what are we going to talk about, Doc? I said, oh, we're going to talk about this whole concept of releasing.
I love it.
And I'm going to play the video that sparked it when I sit down and I think about things that I've learned that help me navigate life. And what I realize is that people are really looking for tools and strategies to help them navigate this thing called life successfully. Sometimes you do it with a coach, sometimes you do it with friends, family, therapists, so forth. And sometimes, you have those moments by yourself where
Right,
you have these insightful moments that can help other people.
right.
And so I have a playlist on my YouTube channel called Things I Learned Today. And when this one came to me, it ran to the forefront. Like it wasn't supposed to be released for another couple weeks because, I make a lot of content at one time and then I drip it. And this one, it was like, oh no, we need out. Like
Mm.
release us, like literally at the gate, like let us out.
Mhm,
And so I sent it to D Law and I was like, what you think? She was like, yeah.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
That's where we are. All right. So I am going to play the video so you can see it, and then we're gonna jump into it. All right.
right.
All right. So let's see here. Do 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 do. Sound is on, and away we go.
Let's go.
To this episode of What I Learned Today. Today, I want to talk about this idea of release. All right. And so Release. All right. So we want to release, meaning to let go. All right. So now, when we release to let go, and I'm talking about thoughts, people, relationships,
Mm.
items. Right. Anything that you can release, mindsets, behaviors, right? These are all types of things that we can release. In the process of me journaling about this whole idea of release, meaning to let go, I started seeing this in my head. I started seeing release,
Mm,
right?
mm,
To and when usually when you release something, it means to start again,
mm,
right? So if you think about it like a car, when the lease is over, you let go of the old lease. You have the opportunity to let go of that old car. And then you have the opportunity to start a new lease with another car. You get a chance to have a release. Now, this becomes important because there are some things that it is time for us to release. It is time for us to let go of these things, these thoughts, these behaviors, these mindsets, these relationships, right? With people, with places, with things, with behaviors, but instead of releasing them, we end up, yep, releasing them. We end up starting them again. We end up being in this cycle, right? Where we get to a point, we know that we're supposed to release when we get to this point, but instead of getting out of it, we start it again. So I said, whew, let's take honest inventory. What are those items? What are those things? What are those behaviors? What are those relationships with, friends, family, romantic, work, right? What are those mindset, those beliefs, those ideas, those concepts? What are, again, those behaviors, those things that we're doing that we need to honestly let go of? Let's make a list of those. Let's that it's time to release them. They're not serving us anymore. They're not serving our greatest good. They're not leading us to our greatest life. And stop releasing those, meaning starting them again. Make a list of the behaviors that you keep, the behaviors, the thoughts, the relationships that you keep releasing, meaning you keep starting again. And then you find yourself caught in this loop. All
mm,
right. There are behaviors that maybe once were functional but are now dysfunctional. There are relationships that maybe once were healthy but now are unhealthy. It doesn't mean that they may not be unhealthy forever, but right now they're not serving you for your best, and or you're not serving the other person or people for their best. And again, this can be friendship, romantic, family, work, spiritual, religious, right? You have to take honest inventory of what needs to be released, let go of, and what have you been releasing that needs to be stopped, meaning you've been starting these things, utilizing these things, using these things again, but you need to actually be releasing,
mm.
letting it go. All right, have at it. I will talk with you all soon. Be well. Bye bye.
I love that.
All right, I'm going to let you go in first.
That was good. I said, let me write a little bit of that down. I said, let me write that one down. The good thing of the thing I focused on when you was talking about releasing in the
Mhm,
cycle.
mhm,
The crazy thing about releasing and starting over in most cases is the things that stick to us. They're like
mhm,
parasites.
mhm, mhm,
When they get stuck to us, it's easier to take the form of what we are used to than trying to change.
mhm,
So what happens is when it's time for us to change, we still go through these battles. And
mhm,
as we're going through these battles, most of the time the comfortable battle wins, because it's when we have to get uncomfortable
mhm,
that takes us into that mindset of why am I doing it?
mhm,
Because it, like Farr says, stupid is what stupid does, but healthy is what healthy does.
mhm,
Somebody could be born in a chaotic type of lifestyle that can be healthy to them
mhm,
because that's what they're born in. It goes back to those
mhm,
generational patterns.
mhm, mhm,
So it's almost like even when somebody eats the wrong thing and then they're ready to, if you were born on pig feet, back in the day, pig feet and all think you was eating like that. If somebody say
mhm,
you don't eat nothing different, you're like, well, what's wrong with the way I'm eating? My parents
mhm,
ate like that. This is what they
mhm.
did. So when you're now trying to unlearn, as that's basically what my journals, my 31-day devotional journal is about, is unlearning those unhealthy emotions from our past.
Yes,
It takes time
yes,
because you're really trying to now decipher out what you've been doing maybe for 20 years,
yep,
30 years, 40 years, and you're still doing it. And
yep,
when you go into a familiar household, they're still doing it, but there's something wrong with it.
mhm,
But it's
mhm,
still something like, well, it got me, the saying says, it got me this far. I'm this
mhm,
age, but nobody else is correcting me. And it seems like I've been thriving this far doing this. This is
mhm,
why releasing, even in the concept of emotional management, um, so many of us learn how to thrive in the
mhm,
mindset of success, but we're still distorted in the emotional shift of a heart set. And
mhm,
that's where I feel like that comes in.
mm. There's so much there, so much in what you just said. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, this idea of releasing, right, what is familiar that may not be healthy,
Hmm.
right? That what once may have been functional that
Hmm.
is now dysfunctional.
Hmm.
And we have to, this is why we take honest inventory. Is this still working for us,
Hmm.
right? Is it still leading us to where we want to go? My mantra is leading us to our greatest life. Or are these habits that are ineffective? Because we can have effective habits, like getting up every morning and brushing your teeth is good for your teeth health, gum health, right, heart health, and social health, because nobody wants to smell funky breath.
Right.
So, right,
Yeah.
it's a good habit to keep
Right.
up.
Hmm.
But then there are those habits that we have which aren't healthy, which aren't effective. And that those habits can be mindset, things that we think about ourselves. They can be negative thought patterns that we have to learn how to release, meaning to let go of.
Hmm.
And this is why I'm saying take inventory. What are those things in your life that are working with you and for you that you may want to release, right? You want to keep signing up for it over and over again. This relationship works. You've been on the show, what, three, four times now,
Right. Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
You started out on Planner's Knowledge as we talked about your book. You have it right next to you so people can see it.
Absolutely.
Come on
Absolutely.
now, right?
Absolutely.
Emotional, right? Finding emotional maturity through emotional awareness,
Awareness. Hmm.
right? So if you haven't seen that show, you definitely want to go back and check that show out. And then we came on Walls of Wellness and we started talking about forgiveness,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
And if you haven't checked that show out, go back and check that one.
Yes.
And then you heard another guest of mine that I had on Sisters for Harmony, and she was talking about forgiveness, and we was like, oh no, we got to bring, right. I needed both of y'all in
Yeah.
the space.
Hmm.
And then when I released this one, I was like, who do I want to talk to about with this? And I was like, oh, she's gonna bring the heat and the fight.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
okay, go ahead.
No, it's very right. Like a lot of behaviors are functional, but what I was thinking when you were speaking was a lot of times it gets to the place of a person knowing it's dysfunctional, but what goes through their mind is how do I let it go?
Yes. Yeah.
Because if I'm around those same, behaviors and
Mm-hmm.
mindsets and it feels normal, now it's becoming in that place where we all at some point start we actually start fighting with is being by ourselves, because when you
Mm-hmm.
start going through that change, there's going to be an isolation that needs to take place for that inventory to happen.
Come on.
So now that the person that wants to make this change has to figure out what does this look like on the other side.
Yes.
So is it easier to stay in the place of where I am, of releasing and cycling or and going through a recycle of this where it's
Mm-hmm.
common to everybody around me? Or do I
Mm-hmm.
now make a conscious decision and say, you
Yes.
know what? I don't want this anymore. And this new journey I'm going to go on is going to look a bit different or a
Come
lot
on.
different than what the norm for those that I'm connected to,
Yes.
those I love, and
Yes.
those that think that, this is okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me highlight a difference right now. And for those who are taking notes, I want you to write these two words down. The first word is normal,
Mm.
and
All
the other word is natural.
right. Ooh.
All right. Everything that is normal may not be natural.
Mm.
Now, I can go right in with this one.
Yeah.
It
That's
is normal to see people with hair all the way down their back. That hair is not naturally theirs. There's a difference between normal and natural. Now, you want some of that D Law before I go on to my next
now I'm
example?
gonna let you carry
You
on
gonna
with
let
that
me
one.
go?
I'm gonna let you carry on with that one.
But for real, right? There is some people, if they didn't have a job that they had to wake up to at a certain time, and this is how we often talk about with my clients, we talk about the difference between normal and natural. If left without an alarm clock, what time would you wake up? You didn't have anything to do except for what you wanted to do. What time would you wake up? And I had a friend who answered that question. She said, I would wake up at like 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. But
Mm-hmm.
my job, I have to be there at 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to set my alarm for 7. It is normal for her to wake up at 7, but it's not natural for her to
Mm.
wake up at that time.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we have adopted a lot of things that we now call normal that are actually abnormal to who we are
Right.
individually. And we have to tap back into who we are naturally and get back in alignment with that, because we have been ascribing and subscribing to some things that are not in alignment with who we are naturally.
That's true.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, piggyback off of that. Yes, that is very true. In most cases, even as I find it with the
Hmm.
body at a certain age will say you need to go back to the natural state.
Come on.
Because if you don't, it's now going to cause you some ramifications. And I
Yep.
think it's like that actually in a 360 of our lives. What is normal? If a child has a temper tantrum at the age of 3 that carries that same type of behavior at the age of 15 to 25 to 35, it's going to have a different result
Yes,
than what they're going to have at 3.
that's
But
right.
because no one checked it, because they said, oh, or challenged it, because the child was 3 years old and said, oh, they'll be fine, they're okay, but it never had any type of consequence or
Right.
even anything to say, you know what, this is a new direction. It's just the same thing like with anger or unforgiveness. If you never seen something and it starts to continuously grow within you,
Hmm.
what is bad? It's like anything ignored. If you ignore your health, in most cases, it's going to remind you. And that's the same thing with our behavior patterns.
Yes.
With what we think is normal, if we were going off at one time and thinking that having erratic behavior was okay at one age, when you then begin to try to develop a relationship and you're challenged and someone's like, this is not right, it's
Yes.
going to now become unnatural. But if it's still normal to you, you're going to ask the other person what's
Yes.
wrong.
Yes.
And
Yes.
matter of fact, how about this? They may say, no, something's wrong with you.
That's right. That's right. And so, right, so the pop off, right? It may be normal for me to pop off at
Yeah.
somebody,
Hmm.
right? But that's not showing my emotional maturity,
No.
right? Because eventually, at some point, I should be able to respond differently. Hence, this is the releasing. I remember when I was in class, and one of my professors said that you tend to argue or deal with conflict the same way that you did when you were like 5 years old.
Hmm.
And now I'm 20 something. I'm just like, what? This man crazy. I don't know what he talking about.
Hmm.
And then he was like, think about how you argued when you were little. So I thought about an argument I had with my older brother, because that would have been the first person
Hmm.
I argued with.
Hmm.
And I thought about an argument I had with the person I was dating. Wasn't much difference in my behavior.
It usually is not.
And I was like, snap. And it was just like, that's not okay. There is, right? I was releasing, I was using the same strategies, the same behaviors, the same things. I had the same level of emotional maturity until I became active and deliberate about changing the way in which I wanted to respond to situations. So, to your point, where you said, you know, people may not know how. So, how did I make the shift? First, I was honest with myself
Hmm.
about how I was interacting emotionally.
Hmm.
And then I thought about how did I want to interact. And so I remember somebody used to look at Felicia Rashad as Mrs. Huxtable. And
Yes.
right? And they used to say, when I get to be that age, I want to handle situations like that, right? She was classy, she was sassy, she was to the point, but she wasn't ratchet with
No.
it,
No.
right? She
No.
was very clear, she was very direct, she was deliberate about sending her message, right? So there was a goal, there was an example to follow for this particular person.
Yeah.
And so for myself, I had to say, okay, how do I want to respond in situations? And the easiest way for me at that time was to say, how do I want people to interact with me, right? It's the golden rule in reverse,
Power of
right?
exchange.
Treat people like you want to be treated. So, how do I want to be treated?
Right.
And so, once I was clear on how I wanted to be treated, then I was clear on how I needed to treat people.
Yes. Hmm. Now that was very self-reflective.
Had to be.
But I know that on the flip side,
And let me say this real quick.
go ahead.
And it had to be self reflective during times when I wasn't triggered,
Oh
right?
yeah.
I wasn't trying to do this stuff in the moment,
Hmm.
because in the moment, I'm going to go back to the default habitual way.
Yes.
So I
That makes
had to do it in a calm state. I had to think about it. And then I had to take time to practice it.
that's good. That's good. No, that's good. And that's what it's about.
Yes. So go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you, but I didn't want to leave that hanging.
Well, I definitely agree with you when you say that. Not to come off to what I was going to say, but
Hmm.
to that point, I remember when I had to go through changes,
Hmm.
when I had to go through the challenge of learning how to speak instead of get quiet and suppress. That's
Okay.
where I was,
Mm-hmm.
because the way that I was raised made me afraid of my own anger.
Come on.
So what would happen is I would suppress my emotion. Instead, when I suppress my emotion, I would then blow up
Hmm.
because it
Hmm.
had nowhere else to go.
Yep.
So when I literally had to figure out how to come to a conclusion of, I'm going to have to get this emotion out a little bit more effectively and healthy, because it's not doing anything good to the person I'm letting it out all to.
Yes.
You're right. Because the process starts when you're not triggered.
Yes.
Because I'm gonna be honest, I failed a few times, probably several times before I actually really got it to the point where it was like, okay, Danielle, think before you speak,
Mm-hmm.
say what you have to say,
Mm-hmm.
because the suppression was really coming from that I didn't want the conflict.
Yes.
So what I had to learn how to do is have my say what I want to say
Mm-hmm.
without the conflict.
Yes.
Became where I'm not saying what I'm saying to persuade you.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get that in my mind first, because a lot of times when we have these hamster wheel conversations and conflicts and arguments,
Yes.
a lot of times it's us trying to prove and justify the person is wrong in what they're saying.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is not the key. I'm saying
Yeah.
what I'm saying because this is the way that I feel. This is the way that is going through my eyesight. I can
Mm-hmm.
even be wrong and say that to myself after I evaluate it. But at
Mm-hmm.
that time, I'm just getting it out. So I do
Mm-hmm.
not have to feel like I'm carrying this burden.
Yeah.
Anytime we carry anything too long, including the toxicity in our body, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to make us sick.
Yep.
So it's going to come out.
Yep.
So I start learning how to speak. Like, so if we're in a conversation, number one, suppression does this first thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to take me all the way back to 1990,
Mm-hmm.
because it's now reaching in emotions that I never resolved.
That's
This is
right.
where the unresolved emotion comes from.
Mm-hmm.
No, so now I have to speak to the individual on where we are. This is what I feel for what you're saying right now.
Yes.
This is how I feel
Yep.
right now. I don't care where they go. They could go to the left, they could go to the right. But
Mm-hmm.
right now, this is what I'm saying. The
Yes.
most healthy thing you could do is hold your emotions in,
Mm-hmm.
because you cannot get out what you want to get out. You have
Mm-hmm.
to learn how to clarify it to the individual. Now, the
Yeah.
other person may still go off, Dr. Balls.
Yeah. That's
They
right.
may, they may still go off.
Yep.
That's not your problem at that time. You're
Yep.
not trying to prove to them what they're saying is wrong. You're just trying to allow them to hear what you're saying, and they might not even hear it. But you said what you had to say, and it's going to be up to you if you want to keep going back and forth.
Yeah.
That's where the additional anger will come from.
Yep.
That's not healthy. But you
Yeah.
have to learn the discipline in saying what you're going to say and
Ooh,
move.
child. That's a whole nother book, emotional discipline.
It is.
But
No, it
the
is.
breath was real, y'all. I
No,
don't know if y'all caught it.
know it. Because I know what it takes, because it's still a practice. That's what people
Mm-hmm.
understand.
Mm-hmm.
Change is a practice as well as a
Yes.
process.
Yes. Yes.
So just like anything that you do in practice, you might fall, but it's for you to
Mm-hmm.
get back up and continue to keep doing the drill again, so you could get to the point where you could get it down pack.
Mm-hmm. I hope y'all got that one down. Now, I don't know if y'all got changes of practice, just like it's a process. I hope you did. You need to put it in the chat room, put it in your notes, because so many times people think that it's just like a one and done, but there's the rare thing in life that's a one and done. I mean, the video games are so popular, like Mario and Sonic and those like that, because there's different levels. And that's the same thing in life. There's these different levels. Once you got this level of intensity down, another level of intensity comes. You
Mhm.
take what you learned on that first level and you apply it to the second level, and then you notice there's some other things for you to learn, and you keep going and going and going.
Yes.
So go ahead. What just went through your mind?
I agree. I call them chapters to your book.
Come on.
There's
Mm-hmm.
always a chapter. Some people, the way life makes us is what we have to get in the next chapter.
Yes.
So that's why it's always you're either in something, about to go through something, or you're coming out of something,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going into the next chapter of your book. So
Mm-hmm.
what you conquered, like you said, in the one level of the game with the Nintendo or the Sega or whatever you did, you
Mm-hmm.
now have another level you now need to conquer.
Yeah.
But life is a continuity. And sometimes what we don't understand is that while we're going through life, you be like, what's next? What is next is now your next learning lesson,
Yes.
not your next failure, not the
Mm-hmm.
next fall. It's your
Mm-hmm.
next lesson. So if you
Yeah.
have something that you're going through, that means there's something now that God has trusted you to now earn to get to the next place in your life.
Come on. So you tell
So
me the Mario coins are gifts from God? All those lessons, those are
listen, autumn Sega rings,
yes.
Sonic
Come on.
rings, Well,
Yes.
ding,
Come on.
they ain't nothing but listen. And you see, when you get the sonic ring, you go into another dimension.
That's right.
That's the same exact thing that happens in life. But because we're going through it, in most cases, and I know a lot of cases, we feel like, why is it happening? But the process is, it has to happen
Yes.
because it's your growth that's being tested. And
Hmm.
that's why you're getting tested. It's matter of fact, you're actually being favored,
Yes.
because that's what God says. He said he chastens the ones that he loves.
Hmm.
So at the end, you're actually being favored when you're going through certain processes in your life,
Hmm.
because he trusts you to grow. But what
Hmm.
happens in the human eye, we start looking at it like, I can't keep going through what I'm going. But
Yes.
he's like, yes, you have to keep going through what you're going so you can keep going to where I need you to get for
Come
you
on.
to get what you need to get.
Come on. Come on.
Hmm.
Like I tell people all the time, you got to go to it in order to go through it,
Hmm.
in order to grow from it.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
So many times we want to jump over that puddle, but we got to actually go through the puddle because there's growth in that process.
Yes. Agreed.
All right. So some people is sitting there listening and say, okay, wait, we got a whole lot. Yes, there are steps to the process of releasing. And
Mm,
I'm gonna run some of them back. First is self-evaluation. So
mm,
you can make a list of those things that you need to release. Now there are some things that are going through your mind right now that and people, activities, clubs, volunteer things that you know, clothes, items that you know you are supposed to be releasing. You might not like what you're hearing and what's coming to mind, but you need to put it on your list that
mm,
these are things that need to be released. All right. Then there's that so that's the evaluation piece. That's the self-awareness. Now you're looking at it and saying, these items, are they helping me get towards where I want to go and grow? Are they leading me to who I want to become? Or are they pausing me, right? Are they stalling me? And or are they taking me in an opposite direction of where I want to go? This is all part of that honest inventory that only you can answer.
mm.
And sometimes some of those things may not seem like quote unquote bad things, but they've run its course,
Yes.
right? It's not that it's a bad thing, it's just it's time to let it go. And
Mhm.
some people are holding on, and the song that's playing in my head is Before I Let Go. No, it's time to let it go. Release, right? Go ahead. What you get ready to say?
And I was just laughing. No, I mean, it is time to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is, that's where it's like a movie. When you get to that end part, it's like, is the person going to go down?
Come
Because
on.
in most cases, what needs to be let go wants to hold on to you. That strong person, that strong man, as they say, wants to keep on whispering your ear. I was reading this book on letting go of anger,
Oh, yeah.
and the guy, the author was saying that anger is going to whisper in your ear, oh, you're going to need me,
Mm-hmm.
you can't live without me. That's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what happens to the unhealthy emotions. Even when it comes down to unhealthy habits such as eating, when you want that big fat piece of cake,
Mm-hmm.
y'all know those
Mm-hmm.
that got sweet tooths, and you
Come
be
on.
like, you know what, I really need to really, take inventory on how I'm eating food. The first thing that's going to happen, your brain is going to go to what it craves, what it is used to, what it wants all the time. It's not going to go to the fruit or the vegetables. It's just going to go to what it wants. And in most
Mm-hmm.
cases, it's easier. The thing about it is, we wrestle so hard, and this is just us, the human part, because 80 to 90% of our thoughts are repetitious.
Mm-hmm.
So if your negative mindset is rehearsing 80 to 90% thoughts, it's going to cause you discipline to get to that 30% of positivity, to
Mm-hmm.
now be combative to that 80 or 90%. And that's like anything in our life. we're going to always have to combat with it seems like the lesser to actually endure and get over or overcome the worse.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we go through in life.
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Wade put in here that sometimes fear may cause us to halt and ultimately arrest our development.
Absolutely.
And so, again, we have to take honest inventory of that fear. I know some people have seen the acronym, right? False evidence appearing real for
Mhm.
fear. And so it's all about taking the honest inventory of it. Is there danger attached to that fear, right? So do we really need to be buckling in or doing something to protect ourselves emotionally, physically,
Mhm.
socially, spiritually, right? Is there some sort of danger that we have to be aware of? Or is it something that we've made up in our head and we're actually feeling a sensation that we've labeled as fear, but actually it's not fear? And because we haven't taken honest inventory of it, it's mislabeled.
Um, I think it could be
Hmm.
fear,
Okay.
because fear is the opposite of faith.
Okay.
Because you have to go into the unknown, and anytime when you have to go into the unknown,
Hmm.
whether it's internalized, in most cases internalized, or something that led you to that fear that came from being externalized, it's still something that's stopping you to think that you could do it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So whether it's holding you back, that the thing of it is that you have to overcome the fear sometimes by just doing it,
Mhm.
like Nike. Just
Mhm.
do it.
Mhm.
Because fear takes us into the place of overthinking.
Mhm.
So sometimes when we begin to overthink some of the steps, we start going back into the same step.
Mhm.
We go
We
back
start releasing,
yeah,
right? We,
yeah.
we we done
We go
signed
back
up
to
for it again. We're back in the loop.
we go back to ground zero to start back at
Yes.
square one.
Yes.
So sometimes, a lot of times, what I've learned with fear, I have to just push through.
Okay.
I can't think.
Mhm.
Me, that's my personality. When
Mhm.
I start thinking, I'm going to start sliding back doing the moonwalk with Michael Jackson. It's just going to happen,
Mhm.
because fear naturally grips you in such a way that it
Mhm.
pushes you, like she said, it arrests you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when it gets to that arrest point, you now go from the fear of it gripping you to now the excuses of I'm cool, I'm here.
Mhm.
Let me give
Mhm.
you an example.
Go for it.
This was just happened recently. Going through some stuff, always trying to move financially things the way that you have to move it, yada yada yada.
Mhm.
And it's also what you put in your ear gate too, in your ears. And I was like, oh God, I don't know if I want to do all this. You know what I'm saying? I was like, eh. And I heard him say that at one time, he said, I need you to give this money to this person. I heard him say it like it was like
Loud and clear.
loud and clear. Let me
Mhm.
tell you, I gave money to everybody else but this situation.
Mhm.
And now my money is at the valley.
Mhm.
I'm like, yo, God, you hear me serious?
Mhm.
And he said, I just need you to have faith of a mustard seed, Danielle. I don't
Mhm.
ask for much.
Mhm.
So I said, you know what? That's small. Now he had to kick in. So when he said that, I was like,
Mhm.
I'm going to drop this money.
Yes.
And the crazy thing is, because I had to just do it.
Yes.
I didn't go through the mindset of God. Well, you know how much this is. I have here, I
Mhm.
have here, what I got
Mhm.
to pay here. When I get
Mhm.
paid. I didn't go through that. He said, do it. I did it.
Mhm.
When it comes to fear, you just have to move,
Mhm.
because if you go into the place of thinking, and let me tell you, I dropped that 100.
Mhm.
I sure did. I said, I'm gonna drop this $100, guy, and came back with more than that. I mean,
Yes.
triple.
Yes.
Didn't know how I was gonna get it,
Yes.
but looked in the account and I said, oh,
But
I said, oh,
how much more you want, Lord?
listen,
Right.
because what happens is, anytime we're gripped up in fear, what you really need to be thinking is, what is the blessing
Mhm.
that he's trying to get me to
Mhm.
that I'm about to miss?
Mhm. There's a
Because that's
question.
fear grips us in the most powerful way
Yes.
when the greatest blessing is about to
Yes.
come. And I'm
Yes.
telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you what
Come
I'm
on.
telling
She telling you, y'all.
you.
She
When
telling.
when fear is gripping you up to that capacity,
Mhm.
that is when you're about to get your greatest blessing, because now you're doing something that's out the ordinary
Come
and
on.
out the regular and the comfortable out your comfort zone. And it's
Mhm.
now going to take you to a place where you're like, oh, now it makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why them old folks used to say, you'll understand it by and by.
Yes. Yes. You know, as you're saying it, I'm thinking about one of my business coaches, and he always says fear is just a signal to let you know that you're alive and that, there's an opportunity there for you.
Hmm.
And so let me get, hey, Rob. Hey, April. Rob said, preach. Yes. So these are right. So as you're making your list of things that you are going to release, that you're going to let go of, what fears kick up,
That's good.
right?
That's
What are you afraid of losing? What are
good.
you afraid of grieving
Mm,
by letting it go? Be it a person, be it a thing, be it a relationship,
hmm
be it a job, be it an organization. Many times people are afraid of losing social status, of losing favor, of losing access, right? You have to look at all of these things to determine what are you afraid of losing.
that's
And
good.
and let me put this up here. Kelly from Mississippi said, "Okay, Reverend, your voice is saying." I heard it too. She said, "Ha ha." I said, "Oh, we coming out. Okay, come on." I heard it too, y'all. Go ahead.
Now that's good, because when we come out of fear and we really release what we need to release
Hmm.
and not release to recycle,
Come on. Hmm.
the thoughts that we need to release is going to be healthier in our lives.
Hmm.
We're going to be able to see different when we release.
Hmm.
So if
Hmm.
you're in constant internal wars and in constant internal conflict,
Hmm.
you're releasing negative and unhealthy
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah.
So those thoughts that you actually have are actually connecting or developing relationships with the same type of people.
Come on. And
So that
behaviors.
means you're trying to, this is why people don't really understand certain things, that you're trying to protect a peace that you haven't gathered yet.
Mm.
When
Mm.
you start gathering a certain type of peace internally,
Hmm.
then you begin to start seeing things different. Like, oh, wait a minute, I don't think I need to be in this type of crowd. And when you
Yes.
start getting that peace,
Yes.
your slide off is a little bit different.
Hmm.
You just say, you know what, you can feel the way you want to feel, but I'm just going to go this way with it. Or if it's
Hmm.
even behavior, I'm going to be honest with you. I remember this comedian said this. He said, we said I was at this comedy show, and he said, he was like, I'm at the age where, if I win, if I have a fight, whether I win or lose, it's still gonna hurt tomorrow.
Mm.
It's the same thing with it's the same thing with behavior patterns. There's certain arguments that you can have with someone that win or lose, you're
Hmm.
still going to hurt tomorrow,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's just not healthy. It didn't
Yeah.
it didn't resolve anything, and you're
That's
still
right.
in the same conflict.
Yeah.
Somebody still walked away hurt. Somebody
Yes.
still walked away with something on their shoulder. It's
Yes.
still going to be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me put this up here. Leslie put up here also fearing a certain feeling too, right?
Fearing a certain feeling too.
So sometimes you avoid certain things. You avoid releasing
Mhm.
people, things, and so forth because you fear the feeling that you're going to experience. And Leslie, if I
Yes,
didn't
you
get that right, please clear it up for us in the chat. And if I did get it right, give us a thumbs up. So, yeah, because many times I have, working with people, talking with people, Why are you still in that relationship? Why are you in that job? Well, I don't want to feel like I abandoned someone,
Oh yeah.
right? I
Hmm.
don't want to feel guilty for letting that person down. I
Hmm.
don't want to. So you end up staying in an unhealthy relationship pattern, one that oh, she said, for example, being uncomfortable, being judged, or being shamed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It goes back to when I was talking about
Thank
anger.
you.
My anger.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it goes back to when I was talking about my anger. I would suppress my anger because
hmm
I knew, number one,
Thank you.
it made me feel like crazy once I would relinquish it because I
hmm
was saying the wrong things.
hmm
And so now, instead of wanting to say those bad things, because I didn't know how to handle my anger, I was afraid of my anger, I would just suppress it.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing is that it ends up coming out anyway. It's one day, like down the road, and the problem would be after I go through all that, I would then have to regroup because it would take so much. I lost.
Out of you.
I
That's right.
still lost. It still hurt. It still hurt the next
Right.
day.
What did it cause you? What did it cost you?
Yeah.
What was the price that you paid for the suppression?
It was a lot. It would be a lot mentally. It worked on every facet of my life. I'm being honest,
Come on.
from my mental to my
Mhm,
emotional to my
mhm,
spiritual. All three of them were broken.
mhm,
They all would be
mhm,
broken
mm,
because I now have released. So mentally, it will work on me
mhm,
because I would be like, "How did I get there?"
mhm,
Then emotionally, it will work on me because it was zapped so much energy that I
mhm,
had to get in such a rageful. My anger would be rageful.
mhm.
So now my emotions are now zapped out. And
Yep.
spiritually now I'm broken because I'm feeling convicted from
Yes.
every freaking thing I just said.
Yes.
And
Yes.
sorry is a word that can cut but so much.
Oh, look. Let me tell you something. The whole idea of asking that question of what is it costing you, right? I was on a call earlier today and it was talking about self-care. Um, and the lady said, what is the soul, SOUL,
Mm,
currency?
mm.
Right. And so I was like, oh, baby, like we're going to be talking about releasing tonight. And when you are taking honest inventory of what are these things doing by holding on to them? What are they costing you by re engaging in relationships, thoughts, behaviors, activities? Are they adding to the bank of
Mhm,
your soul? Are they adding to an increase of wealth in your health? Or are they depleting you? Are you constantly getting a debit from this?
mm.
And so many times, I talk with people and they say, well, they were my friend and they're my friend, they're my friend. And my question is, are you a friend to them?
Mhm.
And are they a friend to you?
That's
Because
good. That's good.
sometimes you are a friend to that person, but the relationship is not reciprocal. And when you take that inventory, you then recognize, wait a minute, I'm giving out a whole lot here, and I'm expecting some things in return,
Mhm.
but I'm not getting those things in return. Go ahead.
I want you to go back to Leslie's question real quick. It's still
Go ahead.
it's getting at me real quick.
Come
I want
on.
I want to. She said the feeling of what again?
So, oh, she said, for example, being uncomfortable, being judged, or shamed. And her original statement was sometimes people are um, fearing a certain feeling.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, what comes with the fear of the certain feeling? Because in most cases, it's an uncomfortability, which she said, I think in the next one, an
hmm
uncomfortability that comes because we haven't become um, like 10 toes down within ourselves. Those
hmm
feelings come from the internal acceptance that we need to give others.
hmm
So, when we know we need to make a certain decision,
Yes.
but yet are afraid to make that decision because we feel like we're now going to be feeling that we're giving off neglect, or the person's not going to see it our way. This is where the subtraction in us needs to be added.
Mhm.
Like, it's almost like the word no.
Mhm.
It's when you go into a relationship and you're always telling this person yes, and the moment you have to tell them no, you start feeling empty inside.
Mhm. Mhm.
You're feeling empty inside because there's something in that word no that pricks you to feel like, wait, makes you feel minus then.
Mhm.
Because somewhere along the line, there might have been a no that made you feel
Yep.
minus. So for you to now
Yep.
say it, you're now feeling that same feeling over again that you
Yeah.
never resolved.
Yeah.
Those are unhealthy emotions. Anytime we get into a judgment, into a shame, and into an uncomfortable place,
Mhm.
those are things that we now have to take inventory of why we feel shame if we're
Mhm.
doing right.
Mhm.
Shame is supposed to come, or guilt are supposed to come, because these are still two-sided words.
Mhm.
Because shame and guilty, when in a positive way or a healthy way, makes us think on how we need to do it differently and how we
Mhm.
need to not do it again.
Come
But
on.
when we're doing it in a way where shame and guilt is playing a part on us in a negative way, there's something that we're missing within
Mhm.
ourselves that's causing us some unnatural regret
Yes.
that
So
now
what?
is going to perform something in our life. If we don't make the right decision, it's going to start bringing us down.
Yeah. So I hear you, and correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like you're saying shame and guilt can manipulate you.
Yes. And that's what narcissists use.
Mhm.
Narcissists will act like everything is your fault.
Mhm.
And if you've been raised in a narcissistic environment,
Mhm.
shame and guilt is going to be one of the first things you're going to battle with.
It's gonna be a go-to.
Always. Because
Mhm.
they're always going to be like, well, you always do this. That's the first thing they do is deflect.
Right. Deflect and project.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So if your mindset is still at that unresolved place of always feeling like you never did enough, the first
Mhm.
time you tell a person no, it's going to minus you because somebody always told you you weren't doing enough.
Mhm. And so this goes back to how we started this conversation with taking that honest inventory and
Yeah.
being self-reflective. And one of the things that you brought up that I want to highlight again is you talked about the suppression of emotion. And with that, many times comes the suppression of the inventory of the shadow side.
Hmm.
Right. And so I know a lot of times people have heard the phrase like shadow work.
Yeah. For sure.
And what does that actually mean? And it's looking at those quote unquote darker sides of us, those sides of us that we're not proud of, those sides of us that we don't want to show the rest of the world, those sides of us that we kind of want to hide and not admit up to the world. And not that you have to, but you do have to admit it to yourself so that you can then work on it. So
Hmm.
you can bring, and taking that honest inventory means just putting a flashlight on it, a spotlight on it, and saying, this is a space where I need to grow. This is a space where I need to heal. This is a space where I need to mature. Back to Danielle's book, if you can hold it up for us again, for those who are just joining us, right? The whole idea of finding emotional maturity through emotional awareness, if she had not taken honest inventory of where she was and then worked through it, she wouldn't have been able to write that book and recognize the value and the benefit of working through it and how this could be a benefit to other people. So you had to look at that shadow side of yourself.
Absolutely. And the other thing you have to also take inventory on is it's okay to be imperfect.
Come on.
I remember that's how God had to work with me. He was
Mm,
like, and when you're raised in a narcissistic environment, the first thing you learn or you hold on to is trying to be perfect
mm,
because you're always being told what you're not doing
gotcha.
instead of what you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're always trying to prove the perfection of who you are. So
Mm,
saying no is a part of you feeling like you're not being the perfect person for that other individual
yeah.
or for that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get to the point of, listen, no does not mean I have to be perfect for you.
Mm-hmm.
No means that I have to do what's right for me.
Come on.
And that's where the difference has to come in from.
Yeah.
It's understand because I was secretly trying to be perfect.
Mhm.
So secretly try you gonna drain yourself out.
Mhm.
You just going to drain yourself out.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
have to understand that and this is where the proving and the justification kind of coincide with the perfection, because when you're trying to be perfecting something, you're always trying to prove that you are so good. So
Mm.
if someone says you don't never do this, the first thing you want to do is combat it. But I do this all the time. Oh,
Mm.
I'm good for that. I have a whole checklist of what I did. I'll ask my partner, just checklist. And it don't matter. It has nothing to do with the price of tea in China of the conversation. It's just
Mhm.
now I'm trying to get into a place where I'm trying to prove everything I do is good. And that's what I want you to see at that time. I
Mm.
don't want to hear the imperfected things that you're telling me.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's the
Mhm.
places you have to, that's the inventory to get to. It's okay not to be perfect, because guess what? Jesus paid it all.
So you had to release that,
Yes.
right?
And
You
still
had
doing it, still a practice.
right. So you're recycling the release in that case.
Yes.
So, right, and understanding and back to your point where you said change is a practice and a process. It's not
Yes.
one or the other. And
Mm-mm.
so it is important that people, I hope people take away from this whole idea of releasing something, letting it go. It is something that you are constantly going to be doing because
Mm.
you're constantly going to be taking inventory of your life. You are constantly going to be looking at where do you need to grow from here. I think many times with the idea of perfection, it's that you don't grow anymore, you don't evolve anymore, right? That you're finished. But I think the reality of life is that we're constantly growing and evolving. Now, I may be the best that I can be in this moment today, and tomorrow, I may wake up after doing some assessment tonight. I say, you know what? And we did this on one of the shows when I think it might have been the first one that we did together. And you were like, well, I hadn't thought about it that way, but let me sit and think about that for a minute, right? And
Mhm.
then you circle back and you like, you know what? Actually, yeah, dot, 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 dot. But let me say this is where I am right now.
Right.
Fair
Yeah.
enough, right? That's just the reality of where we are in the moment.
Yes.
And so there are times I have cleaned out houses, and there are times where my husband is like, throw it away. And I will say, I'm not ready yet.
Mm.
Okay. And so I may hold on to it just a little bit longer. And
Mhm.
there are times when it's vice versa, where I be looking at him like, I don't know what you holding on for that for. Like that need to let it go. And he's like, I'm holding on to it just a little bit longer. So although some of you have done the activity that we recommended, which was to make a list of all of the things that you need to let go, people, activities, relationships, thoughts, behaviors, foods,
Mhm.
items,
Mhm.
right? As you're going down that list, you also want to take note of what are you ready to let go of now? Like you can call it a day. And then what are those things where you're not ready yet? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10, I'm ready to let it go right now versus I'm not ready quite yet. I might be ready before the end of 2025, but I
Mhm.
ain't ready just yet.
Yeah.
So let me throw this up here real quick. I know we're getting ready to come to an end. Leslie said, Danielle, I truly appreciate you going more into my response. I have a family member who carries a lot of fear of putting themselves first.
Well,
And she
and
says, thank
yes,
you.
you're welcome.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. So, um, obviously, as in most of our conversations, it's not a one and done, but we definitely hope that this has helped some people and giving you permission that
Mhm.
it's okay to let go,
Yes.
right? It's okay to release, and it's also okay to look at those things that you want to release, that
Right.
you want to keep in your life, that you may want to
Mhm.
keep and upgrade
Mhm.
in your life, and look at those ways. Now, before those things, excuse me, before we stop, tell the people what they need, what else do they need to know about you, where they can get your book, and what things you got coming up, and what social media they need to follow.
Follow. I'm on Instagram at DLawsCode. That's at DLAWS. CODE. You can also log on to my website, which is www.love-because.com. I have a workshop that's coming up. I'm going to be doing some more workshops, upcoming workshops. This one actually was sold out in February. This one is going to
Mhm.
be called Understanding and Releasing Anger, and just the cycles of anger and how to understand. And the more understanding you get, the more productive you could be with coping with how we deal with anger. I'm going to be working more with youth. If anyone has any youth programs that you have coming up, please, like I said, reach out to me on at DLaw's Code, or you can actually even reach me on my email, which is speak@dlawscode.com. That is speak, SPEAK, at dlawscode.com. If you're looking for any speakers to come in and speak to any youth, women or men, I speak to all people, because I feel like emotions is something, is one of those things that we do not speak a lot. We speak on mindset, but we don't speak on how to get that heart set to give it a different shift in looking or even perceiving things differently. So those
Mhm.
are the places and the areas that you can find me.
Fantastic. And your book, where can they get it from?
Sorry, and you can find my book on Amazon.com. Finding Emotional Maturity Through Emotional Awareness. It's a 31-day devotional journal to help you unlearn unhealthy emotions from your past, because we all have them, and it's something that we need to learn how to detach from. And you don't have to go in order. Just
Mhm.
go to the ones that you know right now that you want to release
Yes.
and do not want to recycle. And then if you know you have to go back and get back to the other ones you need to release, but just go into the order that you're ready for emotionally to deal with at that time.
Fantastic. Any final words, preacher, that you want to say to the people before we close out?
Listen, at the end of the day, take your time.
Mhm.
Life is a continuum. It's
Mhm.
not a cycle. We make things a cycle because we don't know how to always let go, but we still have to keep on moving forward. Whatever you're going through it because God trusts you where you are.
Mhm.
And where you are, he wants you to grow from where you are. But if you continue to hold to it, you'll never be able to get the fullness of what he wants you to see for the success of where he wants you to go.
Yeah.
So just understand, even if you fall, get back up, because it's the practice that you need in order to get where you have to go.
Okay, well, she said what she said, y'all. And look, Robert said amen. And I said, yes, yes. You know, you
It's
know,
clean. Yeah.
you weren't getting out of here with at least a shake. At
Thank you
least
so
one
much.
shake. You're welcome. All right, y'all. Be sure. Thank you, first of all, for joining us. Secondly, be sure to join us tomorrow night. I have a special pop-up show coming at
Mm,
7:30
let's go.
with Dion Chambers, and you will learn about her and all of the amazing work that she is doing in the community. And she has a free community event coming up this Saturday. All right, February 1st at 11 a.m. Her company is called Learn, Empower, Grow. Her and her partner, Dr. Stephanie Blake. Again, it's Learn, Empower, Grow. And she has a wonderful wellness event. We will be watching a documentary with Dr. Nia Bailey.
What?
Yes, we'll be watching that documentary, and then we'll be doing a panel discussion, which will be hosted by yours truly. And then we will have some wellness activities. So it's going to be a fantastic day on Saturday. I will be posting the flyer in my stories on Instagram. So definitely check out Instagram at Ask Dr. Walls 525. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please make sure that you do so. Again, it is no cost to you except for a moment of tapping that subscribe button. And again, Dion Chambers will be on with me tomorrow night, Wednesday, January 29th at 7:30 p.m. And all of my books are available on Amazon. You can check them out. The Adventures of Froggy T and Bunny, a hip hop tale. They have grown, grown, grown. And they also have their YouTube channel at Froggy T and Bunny, and that's BUNNIE. All right, y'all. As always, until we meet again, God bless and continue to live your greatest life. See you soon.
And